know that an estimated amount of 150 million children worldwide are engaged in child labor? 60% of them are located in China. In the Chinese province of Sichuan, over 500 children were found working 14-hour shifts in a factory and are paid nothing. The International Labor Standards job is to ensure that child labor does not exist in poor countries, but China chooses not to enforce these types of laws or policies. More than half of working children are involved in hazardous work that will impair their physical and mental development. They are forced into human trafficking and are sold or kidnapped into slavery. Families of the children are poor, so their family needs that extra source of income. China clearly violates the human right. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of a person. The concept of liberty and security of a person is ignored because criminals and illegal businesses enslave children through violent and coercive means. Being forced to work 7 days a week also takes away children's right to an education. Some are even confined, beaten, and forced into slavery. In some cases like those of bonded child labor, they are forced to work towards a freedom they'll never receive. They're often subject to abuse from their employer, as well as dangerous chemicals and work tools. Every day of their life as a child laborer could be their last, and they're forced to fight to stay alive. A human rights article said that working at rug looms, for example, has left children disabled with eye damage, lung disease, stunted growth, and sustainability to arthritis as they grow older. Children making silk thread dip their hands into boiling water that burns and blisters them, breathe smoke and fumes from machinery, handle dead worms that cause infections, and guide twisting threads that cut their fingers. It then makes it difficult for children to live a normal life. Imagine working 16-hour shifts in factories with no food, water, or access to seeing your family. Because children don't have time to have an actual education, the closest form of schooling is educational labor, where they spend hours in fields growing crops. This is why we have organizations such as the International Labor Standards, UNICEF, and the Humanian Organization that do their best to fight for children's rights in China. The Child Labor Watch advocates for better labor conditions of the Chinese factories and fundraises for research and undercover investigations. UNICEF creates awareness for child slavery, and the Humanian Organization also creates fundraisers. China's government has not done too much to address this deplorable situation because they believe this issue is not a priority in their country. On December 17, 2007, there was a plan to effectively prevent and severely combat the criminal activities of trafficking in children and to actively provide assistance and give appropriate aftercare to children. To commit the crime of abducting and trafficking a woman or a child in China may result in a range of punishments from 5 years of imprisonment to the death penalty. Those new laws gave families some hope that their children could have a better life. Child labor rights have been a problem since 1949, and these problems have continued up to the present. 15 years ago, China achieved its goal of universal primary education and managed to swipe out most of child labor occurring in the country. The practice of child labor is believed to be a persistent problem within China by some China watchers. China needs children to increase their economic goals. So, they choose to sweep the matter under the rug, so that they become the ideal manufacturing country regardless of the social cost. The Congressional Executive Commission of China made the following statement. The overall extent of child labor in China is unclear due to the government categorizing data on the matter as highly secret. It cited a report on child labor in China, finding that children generally work in low-skill sectors, as well as small workshops and businesses, including textile, toy, and shoe manufacturing enterprises. There are countries all over the world who violate the same human right and don't give children their freedoms. North Korea, Ethiopia, and Myanmar are 3 examples who violate the human right. For example, children are not needed, and officials force mothers to kill their children in North Korea. Nearly 60% of Ethiopian children are put to work to supplement family income, earning about $1 a month. Not only are they forced to work in Myanmar, but they are recruited into the military at the age of 12, which violates their right to living how they want and not putting themselves at risk. People like you can choose to have fundraising events and create awareness for these unfair laws. Federal child labor provisions was authorized by the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, which were enacted to ensure that when young people work and when the work is safe, it does not jeopardize their health. That act could have been very beneficial to China so that millions of children do not suffer. Current U.S. child labor laws allow child farm workers to work longer hours, at younger ages, and under more hazardous conditions than other youths. While children in other sectors must be 12 to be employed and cannot work more than 3 hours on a school day, in agriculture, children can work at age 12 for unlimited hours before and after school. China chooses not to implement laws like those. The government should be working harder to protect the rights of children. Luckily, abducting and trafficking a woman or child in China may result in a range of punishments from 5 years imprisonment to death penalty. China is doing a terrible job of protecting the human rights of children. Children are forced into human trafficking and are sold and kidnapped into slavery. Everyone has the right to liberty, life, liberty, and security of a person is most important as it ensures the right for children, the right to life for children. They deserve the same rights as everyone else and should not be taken advantage of. China has the potential to change how they define and enforce laws to protect their children. Some possible solutions for China would be that China should make a policy that is illegal to work children under the age of 16, because children deserve to live a life without the pain of working. It would make things easier for families to make money without forcing their children who are 10 years old to work for them. China should make another policy that is illegal to sell your children into slavery for money, and that families should reach out to the government instead of using their children. The fact that parents are that desperate to make money is devastating, and that law would be extremely beneficial. Lastly, China should provide civilians with more economic opportunities so China's poverty is reduced and children are not in the workforce. As you can see, China has not given their children full attention and do not care for their safety. Maybe you can take a stand and spread the word about unfair child labor laws. Thank you for listening.